So what's your personal connection to the foster care system?
Well, it's because I am a foster mother myself, and my husband's a foster father, and we had observed another couple in our church that were doing foster care, and it wasn't something that we had done ever before. We had no experience with it, but we decided to open up our heart, and our heart was challenged, and we decided to take in our first child. We went through the whole process of being licensed, and then we started with our first child, and eventually that led to 23 children in our home. And so we've been foster care to 23 great kids.
How many years did that take?
That took a period of 6 years, because we had kids on average for 2 years at a time, and we had 4 children at a time, in addition to our 5 biologicals. So we had a pretty high census, but it was a lot of fun.
So you're one of the co-founders of the Congressional Caucus on Foster Youth, and I think people would like to understand kind of what that is and what the importance of it is.
Well, when you have a caucus in the United States Congress, the purpose is to focus on a single issue. And because this is a very important issue to a lot of people, a lot of kids across the country, we want to bring members of Congress together around an issue set. It's totally bipartisan. It's not political. A lot of people think that we can never talk about anything in Congress, that everything is gridlock and everything's partisan, and it isn't at all. And so both Congresswoman Bass and myself have come together. We created the Foster Care Caucus, a bipartisan caucus, to elevate the issue of the problems and challenges that families deal with foster care, because we want solutions. That's what we're about, positive solutions to actually help the life situations for families in challenging situations.
I've seen the caucus grow pretty rapidly. I mean, the numbers of members who are signing up and the kind of excitement around the caucus is really incredible. So I'm wondering, what do you think that growth signifies, and why is that so important?
I think what it says is that foster care is an issue that doesn't impact just one part of the country. It isn't just an inner city issue or rural issue. It's suburban, it's exurban. It is whether you're wealthy or whether you're at the lowest part of the socioeconomic strata. It isn't an ethnic issue. It goes across all ethnicities. And so no matter what your background, foster care impacts almost every district. And who doesn't love kids, and who doesn't want to help children in a challenging situation? So we have a lot of loving people in Congress, and they want to do something about this important issue.
Can you kind of tell me so there's been this listening tour going on,
mm-hmm.
and we've had the pleasure of kind of running around, and Brooke's been with us too, running around the country and taking a look at foster care and finding those solutions. So why do you think that, can you explain what that listening tour is and why you think that's important?
Oh, sure. The reason why we have a listening tour is because we don't believe that we are the fount of all knowledge or the repositors of all knowledge. Our job really is to listen to the experts. Who could be more of an expert than a child who's in the foster care system, or parents who have a child in the foster care system, or social workers in the child care system, or organizations in the local community that deal with the foster care system, or local government entities that deal with foster care? That's who we need to listen to. And so we've held listening sessions in Los Angeles, in Miami. We had a staff meeting here in Washington, D.C., and also Saginaw, Michigan, and we're planning an upcoming listening session in my home state of Minnesota as well. I think it's important that we hear from urban voices, rural voices, exurban voices, suburban voices, because again, foster care is not endemic to any particular part of the country. It's everywhere, and that's why we need to listen to a wide diversity and spectrum of voices.
I remember back in September of 2011, you were part of this event that we put together, this Back to School, Back to Instability with the Congressional Coalition on Adoption Institute, and we really started talking, and you were right there talking about the intersection of education and foster care.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's something that's been a big issue for your office, and you've had a lot of leadership on that. So why is that issue so important? Why is that education piece so important?
It's huge, because one thing that we're seeing, foster children more than any other student population deals with a transitory, temporary nature in various homes. And that's, you hear the expression that foster kids get bounced from home to home to home. It isn't just home to home to home. It's also foster parent to foster parent. It is school to school to school. It's new friends friends to new friends. And if you can imagine what it's like to be 16 years of age and go from school to school, friend to friend, culture to culture, this is not easy. And I had introduced a bill in Congress that would allow a child to stay in the same school so they could at least try to have the same student group, the same teacher group, the same social worker group. If they can't stay in the same home, could they at least have something that's permanent? We also want children, or the people who make the decisions about a child's education, in addition to the child and their biological parent, those that are in the decision-making group about the best interests of the child, we want to make sure that they have all of the relevant data about their education, where the gaps are. Because after all, our whole goal with dealing with foster children is to help them find a forever family. That's in the heart, I think, of every child. It's in the heart of foster parents, and it's really in the heart of the system. Let's look for the best interests of the child, and that's a forever family.
Just yesterday, Senator Landrieu followed you guys in submitting legislation that would do exactly what you're talking about with the data. So can you kind of talk about the House bill in just a little bit more detail about FERPA and amendments to the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and how that will foment better interchange of information that will help kids succeed?
Well, I'll be happy to, because here in the House, we introduced a bipartisan piece of legislation. Yesterday, the Senate followed suit. They filed a bipartisan piece of legislation. So both House, both Senate, we both agree that we have a privacy law regarding a student's educational data set. In other words, all of the material about the student, how they're doing in school, all of their relevant data. That's good that that's private. Parents have access to that data. The student has access to the data. But in the position that a foster child is in, when decisions are made about that child's education, it's more than just the biological parents and the student themselves. We also have social workers. We have the foster parents. And so we don't want to disseminate this material beyond the group of relevant people that will be making the decisions about the best interests of the child's education. But it's important that all of the information be on the table for those people who will be making decisions. And that's what this is about, making sure that no one's in the dark about a child's educational challenges and needs or their skill sets, so that we can make the best decisions we can.
I'm going to end with one last question, because we're in DC, it's hot. Everything's coming to a halt. Tomorrow's recess. Doesn't seem like much is happening, except for on this issue, and it is very kind of nitpicky, small but large issue. And I'm kind of wondering, why do you think that these foster care issues don't get that big play in the national press, and to what degree is that necessary to really get more momentum behind all of it?
Well, that's really the impetus behind starting the Foster Care Caucus, because we want to elevate this issue. We believe very strongly that foster children are wonderful. They're loving, beautiful human beings they have expressed challenges that we want to help them with. But we are seeing activity. This is good. We just filed our bill in the House. Now we see the Senate has followed suit. We do have time yet in the remainder of this year to advance the cause of children in challenging circumstances. That's what we're here to be about, to be advocates for the best interests of children.